Hey, how about it, race fans? Richard Allen of InsideDirtRacing.com and InsideCircleTrack.com coming at you with one of my richest ramblings. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, but I thought I'd come on and share my views, considering there's been some pretty big news come down the pike in dirt racing here in the last few days. If you haven't heard, and it'd be hard to imagine you haven't, but the High Limit Racing Series, the High Limit Sprint Car Series, which is co-owned by Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson, has recently purchased the All-Star Circuit of Champions Racing Series. And on top of that, then yesterday they announced a major partnership deal. They have now joined forces with Flow Racing or Flow Sports. Of course, their races last year, they had an 11-race schedule last year, mostly running midweek shows. Those were all shown by Flow Live, but now Flow has become more than just a entity that will show their races. They've also become a partner, a business partner with the High Limit Series. So that was announced yesterday. And some other news, some interesting news. The Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, of course, is shown live by Flow. Every race of theirs shown live by Flow. They announced that there will likely be some races in which their high limits and the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series will be on the same track in the same weekend. Some partnership races there between the two. So obviously giving Flow Racing a major broadcast powerhouse there that they would be able to show those two series running together. They'll show all the races of those two series, and Larson and Sweet pointed out that they expect to have somewhere around a 50 race schedule, which would include those midweek shows, which are going to have a separate little points fund, separate championship for the midweek races, as well as have their other races, kind of taking over a large bit of the All-Star Circuit of Champions schedule. Flow is really set up well here with its own now major sprint car entity, as well as the Lucas Oil Late Models, which they've already had as well. If you follow along in dirt racing very much, you know that DirtVision.com already has a similar setup with the World of Outlaws Case Construction Late Model Series and the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. Not that they weren't already, but now this sets these two entities up as major competitors for subscribers here in the next few days, weeks, months, and years that will come to pass. So, what does all this mean? First of all, obviously, there's competition for subscribers. Both entities want to have as many subscribers as they possibly can. You know, some people probably have both. I'm one that has both. I can't even keep track of all the streaming services that I subscribe to, but I've got both of those, and some people do. But there are others who maybe can only afford to have one if they have any at all. And so Dirt Vision has always been able to advertise the fact that, hey, we have sprint cars with the World of Outlaws, but we also have late models with the World of Outlaws. So we've got both plus other events that they can have as well. And Flow is a major, sports broadcaster. They don't just do racing. They have quite a few other things out there as well. But now Flow can make the same claim that Dirt Vision can in saying that we have a major sprint car entity that will race probably 50 times a year or more. And we have the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, which will also probably race 50 times or more, somewhere in that neighborhood you'd suspect. And there will be occasions when there will be companion events where the two will be together, just like the World of Outlaws just recently had with the World Finals and have had for quite some time. So depending on whichever side you fit on, whether you subscribe to either, both, none of those. Of course, this is what it's all about. It's all about competition and providing a service that people want. That's what capitalism is supposed to do. So now we'll see in my opinion, they'll probably both wind up doing very well, I would think. I think that the real competition is not really between High Limit, World of Outlaws, Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. In my opinion, what's going to happen when you have a situation like this, it's already happening now, and it's just going to be furthered by this recent announcement. It's not the national series that are going to hurt each other. when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'd almost bet you that you go to any Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series race in the coming year, there's going to be a huge crowd there. You go to any World of Outlaws sprint car or World of Outlaws late model race, there's going to be a big crowd there. You go to any high limit race, there's going to be a big crowd there. So they're not going to be hurt. What's going to happen every time these national series kind of expand their footprint, I know that's the popular saying, to expand the footprint. Every time that they do, they're starting to trample on territory where the local racers, the weekly shows, and the regional series race, because then the thought process starts to come in with a fan. Let's say I'm a fan who has subscribes to one of them, say I'm paying $39 a month or something like that, and there's a regional series race that's going to be at a track that's maybe 2, possibly 3 hours away from my house. So I'm going to have to drive a total of 4 to 6 hours to get to that track. I'm going to have to pay to get in, buy concessions, buy gas along the way, stand in line to get into a restroom, stand in line at a concession stand, be crowded into a seat there if, depending on how big the crowd is. Or since I'm already paying for this subscription, why would I not just sit at home, pop my own popcorn, get my own drink out of the refrigerator, not have to stand in line to go to a restroom, and just watch the race that way? So every time there's expansion of the national tours, I believe it digs a little bit deeper into the regional series or the weekly racing shows again. Maybe if the weather's not quite perfect, or something like that, then I say, well, I'm just going to sit here on my couch and watch, it's 72 degrees inside my house and it's not sprinkling rain, or the wind's not blowing, or it's not way too hot or not way too cold. I'm just going to sit here at my house and watch the racing from here. So these national series, their expansion is good for them, and of course it's good for the teams. Now the teams, let's say you're a World of Outlaws sprint car team, and you've really basically just had one option over the last several years. You're going to race with the World of Outlaws or not. I mean, you could do like Rico Abreu, for example, this year had a really good year of just kind of hit and miss. He ran all the high limit races, and he just hit pick and choose schedule with the World of Outlaws, and he did really well. He won races. So there are some who can do that, but primarily, for the most part, if you're going to be a sprint car driver, in the last few years you've run with the World of Outlaws. Well, now you have an option, and this option it sounds like it's going to have quite a bit of money involved with it. And the same thing, and the World of Outlaws have been very restrictive in how much they let their regulars race away from the series. And High Limit made sure to point out that they're not going to have any of those type of restrictions for their guys, that they'll be able to race elsewhere whenever they'd like. So from this, so who benefits? Well, the fans benefit because you're going to have more racing available to you. The teams are going to benefit because there's more money out there. There's more racing options out there than they've had before. Who doesn't benefit? Well, like I said, I think the weekly shows, the regional shows are not going to benefit as much because you're already paying for the streaming service. So why would you go to a racetrack somewhere and spend money on top of that? You don't get a refund from your streaming subscription because you decided to go to a race on a Friday or a Saturday night. Of course, you still got to pay that. So if you're already spending the money, you might as well say, especially when they're going to have so many options out there. If you're just an overall dirt racing fan, well, I know 4 nights a week there's going to be a sprint car race, a late model race, the World of Outlaws, Lucas, whatever. I'm going to have all those options. So over the next couple of years, probably, it's going to remain to be seen how all this plays out. There are obvious benefits from it. There are obvious detractions from it, from all this major expansion. I'm interested to see just how many races there will be with the Lucas Oil and the High Limit running together. And then when World of Outlaws sees that, and if they see that that's providing big crowds and really big subscription numbers, will they start having more pairings between their sprint car and late models at other tracks besides at the World Finals at Charlotte. So it's all going to be interesting to see it all plays out. So like everybody else, I'll be watching to see what happens. But until we do see what happens, this is Richard Allen of InsideDirtRacing.com and InsideCircleTrack.com saying I'll see you at the track.